Welcome to Tropes and Tantrums. I'm Amber.
And I'm Danielle. We are just two moms, never without our kids or our Kindles.
Welcome back to Tropes and Tantrums. We are going to do our buddy read. But here's the thing about our buddy read.
If you haven't listened to the other episodes.
I started it. And as much as I wanted to love it, I didn't. I was bored. I was aggravated with her specifically because you weren't getting his POV or like his insight first. And she was just like annoying. On my last nerve.
She was just a little annoying. And I've read just the beginning of that, but I do remember she was annoying.
I just needed to stop because I wasn't enjoying it. And one of my goals this month was to be intentional with my reads. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't meeting it for me. So I texted Danielle and I said, hey, look. I'm out. Yeah. This is not for me. I'm bummed, but I'm bored.
Amber doesn't love to DNF books, by the way. Like, she actually despises it.
And it has to take a lot for me to like be like, no, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
So we decided that I already kind of knew that like my next read was going to be Pucking Around because I have a ton of friends who have been on me about like, how have you not read this yet? Danielle's been like, I want to chat with somebody and I want it to be you. Please read, whatever. So here we are. I read Pucking Around and now we are going to talk about Pucking Around. If you have not read Pucking Around, please skip this podcast.
If you have no desire to ever read Pucking Around
and you want to know everything about it, please stay and
we'd love to have you.
So let's get into it.
Yep. Pucking Around. Do you want to?
Did you start? You read the novella.
Yes.
0.5 novella.
Loved the novella.
Insta love. It's called That One Night. It's insta love. One night stand. No names. Strangers meet at a bar kind of situation.
One night, yeah.
I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. What did you rate that?
I think I rated it 4.5.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Again, like if you listen to our previous podcast episode about our January wrap-episode, we talked about novellas and how we rate them differently than actual books.
Full book, yeah.
Not that novellas aren't books, because they are books. The authors took time to write them and put together a plot for them, and that's important to remember.
Especially
but we rate them differently. Yeah. We rate them for what they are.
And that you had to really read before you read Pucking Around.
I fully
And I think she even puts it in the beginning of Pucking Around. Is like, if you have not read it, like
I suggest that you do.
It's very fast and
it's so
very
fast.
Good.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it. I genuinely enjoyed it. So here's the thing. So on that note, I went into Pucking Around with very high hopes because I did love the novella. And obviously, like Amber, had a lot of people rave about Pucking Around. So I was...
Yeah.
And if you are...
But I also read a lot of White Shoes. And that's why... I think that is also why a lot of people wanted me to read it.
Yes. And here's the thing. As a baseline, you are looking at 2 different people who have completely different reading tastes. We do have some crossover, obviously. We do have, obviously, that's why we're here. But I am not a Why Choose girl. This is the second Why Choose I've ever read.
This
is not an entry level Why Choose, and I know that.
No, if you want an entry level Why Choose, I'm telling you, The Hat Trick by Maddie Danielle is the greatest way for you to be introduced to Why Choose. I fully stand by that. If you want to dive off the deep end and you want to go straight dark Why Choose, go with like Den of Vipers or something, or Unstoppable by K. Knight. Like, that's the direction that you need to go. But if you have never picked up a Why Choose before, I've not read the one that you started with.
I can't think of what that... I was just
Isn't it better than the movies?
No. God, no.
No.
That's a YA.
Oh.
Oh, my God.
No, what is that?
Lynn Painter's rolling over. She's like, what is happening? I mean, she's not listening to this, but I can't think of what that freaking YA... Those are awful. France and I both went in
there's
very
a Why
stupid.
Choose that she read and she, like, hated. But if
with
you
the
have
cartoon
never,
cover, so
yes,
don't.
I think that's why I got it confused. But The Hat Trick by Maddie Danielle, I highly recommend if you need an entry level to Why Choose.
Faking with Benefits. Lily
Faking
Gold.
with, that's it.
Lily Gold.
That's
It's literally the popular Why Choose romance is Lily Gold and then Pucking Around. So that's, yeah.
Love
so
that.
I literally just Googled it on Goodreads.
The Pucking Around is, in my opinion, for someone who's never read Why Choose before or like has been like, I don't know about this whole Why Choose thing. This is jumping off the deep end.
Oh, Sam's like fast.
That's it was a lot, but I loved it. I loved it. I have my thoughts, but I loved it.
Do you want to go into tropes? Because I
could go into tropes. So it is. Yeah, I can go into tropes.
Male, female,
obviously,
male. Male.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, male, female, male. All the letters together.
She's having a panic attack over there.
I can't. I read it a couple months ago.
Sorry, guys. I'm pulling it
And
up.
here's the thing. Pucking Around is very daunting for anyone.
It's a very long read,
book.
and I will give you that.
It should have been 2 books, at least.
I literally texted Danielle, and I was like, I just hit 50%.
You feel like you're reading forever because you're looking at the percentage. You're like, holy
I don't look at the
shit.
percentage. I was like, okay, this is I know physically this book is thick. Thick. I'm going to, usually what I do when I read on my Kindle is
It is on KU, by the way.
Yeah. I get to like chapter 10, and then I click to see what page number I'm on, and then I put it in my Goodreads in my story graph, and that tells me what the percentage I'm at, and then I go back, and then when I get to chapter 20. But this book, I did every 20 chapters. I did that, and that's probably why. But the tropes, tags, and content warning for this book. The tropes are hockey, romance, Why Choose, friends to lovers, insta love, which is totally correct. Okay. You are looking at male, female, male, 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 female, male, female, male, 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 female, male. If you did not get that, I'm sorry, but it's all the letters. So you'll have 2 guys who participate together, and then one of the guys does not at all. He will only participate with her. But then they all participate together with her, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I hope you all followed that if you've never read Why Choose before. If you are not into male, do not read this book. This is not a book for you, unfortunately, because this is a great book. It's a hockey romance, romantic comedy, insta love, friends to lovers, queer awakening, too much sex, don't poke the bear, golden retriever, everyone has tattoos, baby girl, bend over, daddy, and Finnish 101, which is because one of the characters, he's from Finland. There are content warnings.
I didn't feel like there was it was like trigger heavy.
It wasn't trigger heavy. I think it was more of like things that happened to them, certain characters in the past.
Previously. Like those were their triggers mostly. It felt
their own trauma that they were carrying is what the problem was. But other than that, I'm telling you, there is, when you open the book, as you should, is go all the way to the cover and then start scrolling, because these authors deserve that. But they give you all of the information in the book, because right now I literally have it pulled up on my Kindle. So just be aware of those things. If you're not into those things, then this is not the book for you.
It's not. It's you rated it what, 4 stars?
Yes.
I rated it 3. So again, like we said, completely different taste perspectives. I didn't hate the characters. I actually enjoyed them as characters.
Who was your favorite? Gun to your head. Who was your favorite?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't. I don't know if I can make that decision. What about you?
Jake or Mars, hands down.
Okay.
Gun to my head, that's my answer.
I would say
I could live or die without Caleb.
I liked Caleb a lot more at the beginning. And then grew to dislike him. But like Mars, I would say Mars probably at the top tier, I would say.
Jake is our golden retriever.
Jake is definitely a golden retriever. So here's my thing. It's a lot. If you are not a why choose person, and here's the thing, I'm not a why choose person, but I knew what I was getting into. When you're reading, like, you know what you're getting into, but it's still a lot. It's just a lot. And Rachel really...
She's very selfish.
And she bothered me. Quite frankly, she was, I think, my biggest issue with this book was her and obviously she's the focal point because it's all kind of centered around her. She's the catalyst for all of the things. And I didn't like her choices. I didn't like the way that she was, like you said, very selfish. I feel like in a why choose, I think the female has to be, if it's a why choose in this regard, I think the female has to be a little bit more selfless to really I feel like round out the plot.
Okay, so earlier in the week, Danielle texted me. Oh gosh, how did you word it?
I can't remember now.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up. She texted me about why choose, and I told her we're saving it for the class.
I know. I just had so many.
I screenshotted it because I laughed, and I sent it to my friend Olivia. Here it is. I just have to ask, is this pretty standard stuff for why choose? And I was like, ask me on the pod, I'll answer. I want to answer for the class. This is not standard why choose because, like you just said,
that actually makes me feel a lot better. Just so everyone's clear.
From what I've read of why choose,
which is a lot for most people.
For most people, yeah. I've read quite a few. Usually, the female character will like bother you in some ways, or like you don't necessarily agree with all the things that she's doing or saying, but she is strong and she knows how to stand on her own feet. That being said, Rachel, though, and I think her mom towards the end of Pucking Around explained it perfectly. Also, again, I'm going to reiterate, if you have not read this book, please exit the pod, or if you are planning on reading it, because this is spoil central. Her mom kind of explained it perfectly. Was you carry so much of what your brother went through, being traumatized in private school, boarding school, or whatever he was going to, for one, being gay, and two, for being a rock star's kid.
Yeah.
And you didn't fall very kindly in the light either. But you hold more of that trauma than your brother does. And it's time for you to let it go and let it be.
Yeah.
But those reasons alone are the reasons why she behaves the way she is. Not that that's an excuse. I'm not saying that.
No.
But I am saying that is why her character is, that is why Emily wrote her character the way that she's written, is because of those things.
Correct.
She is very, it's better if I just hide. It's better if I just fly under the radar. I don't want to I don't want anything to come to my family.
Yes.
My family will always have my back. We have this Bible rule, whatever. We love that. But you're not really living your life.
No, but...
And the other thing is, most in why choose situations, you have a found family situation where she doesn't really she doesn't have a family. She had a traumatic childhood, or everyone in her family has passed away, or she doesn't speak to her family, whatever that situation is. So this becomes like a whole thing.
Yeah.
But I will say, which I thought was very different for this book, was that the men all also not only having their own traumas and their own pasts that are very different, but they're all also very insecure.
Correct.
And in the sense of unsure if they're doing the right thing. And usually you don't have that problem in a Why Choose. Usually the males are either friends who have all become like brothers, and this is just how they have formed their bond.
Yeah.
And so they all fall for this. One of them falls the hardest first, and then it kind of like trickles down, and no one cares.
Yeah.
This was
not
like
that.
They all kind of care, but they don't. So that was like, it was very interesting. As someone who reads Why Choose and like enjoys those books, also because it's not my reality, right? That could never be me.
Yeah.
But this is that it is the book. So I enjoy them, but I've never seen it put in the way of like literally all four of them are very unsure of what they're doing.
And so
but I feel like she was the mastermind.
Yes. So piggybacking off of that, as someone who does not read Why Choose, you had 4 characters, all coming with trauma, totally understandable, real life people who have trauma, who really didn't know what they wanted, quite frankly. And I think that then...
I think Jake knew what he wanted. He for sure wanted Rachel.
No, but I'm saying beyond, like...
Oh, what was to come from this?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
He wanted Rachel the whole time. But he didn't know...
From the bar.
And literally. And I think that's where then, like, when you put all of these ingredients into this recipe where you had 4 people who were insecure, had this trauma, had all of these different expectations, had all of these things.
You are missing a book. You're missing the novella.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm having an epiphany. On our Instagram, you said I was missing a book.
Oh, that's okay. Okay.
Sorry.
That's a private note for us for me to reconvene. That's 100%.
Sorry.
No, that's 100%.
Clip it.
Okay. It's fine. It's fine. We're not going to clip it. We're going to. So
too funny. Okay, sorry.
Jake and Rachel had that instant connection,
which I loved.
I loved
the whole book.
And
could be just about Jake and Rachel, and I'd be happy.
I would have been thrilled. So here's the thing: you put these 4 people. She wants it to be a secret, but then she acts like she doesn't give a shit, but then she does give a shit. And I think that she is a roller coaster of a human through the whole book.
I think the reason why it was like, I don't give a shit if this is open or not, or I don't like, no, I want this to be secret. It was a lot to do with her job.
No, 100%.
But her and Jake like went in and like signed paperwork. She was no
okay.
longer his doctor. Also, one of your boyfriends is limping around and you're a knee and hip doctor specialist. You're not helping him? What? Like, I was like, oh, this is when she's going to, like, he's really going to break his knee. And this is like what's going to happen. And she's going to rehab him and it's going to be great. And maybe he'll get back on the ice. No, what? I feel like that was a missed opportunity that we could have been rehabbing Caleb. I'm sorry. I said it.
I think
it was a missed opportunity.
No, I agree with you. Caleb was there for Jake. Like, his connection with Rachel, like, totally, yeah, get it. He was there for Jake. Like,
Caleb?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it wasn't for Rachel, it was for Jake. And, like, that's been brewing since far beyond the books even started, obviously. And I think that all of these stories, I think, could have been separate on their own. Like, I don't know if it necessarily needed to be a Why Choose, quite frankly. Like, I think that they could have, like, I think you could have had aspects of Why Choose, but, like, Mars?
No,
Mars didn't
why choose is all in or nothing. And then it was said, like, to be, like, the trope, why choose, it's all in or you get nothing.
But, I mean, I feel like for most of the book, Mars was like...
No, he got on board.
I mean, eventually, but I feel like it took a lot, and it was...
I think it's so... Sorry, I'm trying to get my thoughts in order. For him and for Rachel, though, like, Rachel was trying to protect him from, like, the very beginning, like, especially with, like, his labrum tear and like things like that. Like that was almost her selling point. Like, you living is more important to me than you playing hockey. But she knew to him, hockey was more important than his livelihood. But I think, living. But
I think,
but it took him to realize that like she was never gonna push him outside of his comfort zone. But he needed to understand that like they are also off the ice. They are also a team.
No, I agree with that. But I think that they're just like her and Jake could have been a whole separate situation. Her and Mars could have been a whole separate situation because I think Mars could have done without the other two. I mean, like
I think yes and no.
I mean, I get that that's like the purpose of why choose. Like, I totally understand that as like obviously the overall thing. But like, I just didn't understand the aspects of the, I don't know. I think I was just trying to find their individual relationships like amongst each other or like with Rachel.
I think that is one thing that this book lacked the most, because usually in some of the Why Choose, you get the individual foundation of their relationship where they were literally just like throwing each other at each other.
But that's
in my opinion.
Well, and I think quite frankly it was so uncomfy with her job. I think that that's where I was just uncomfortable because from the get-go, like, it almost felt like her job was like, she didn't really. It
was secondary.
Yeah, and I totally get that. Like, I get that was like.
Well, she even said like, I don't have to work. I just want to.
But that was where it didn't make sense to me. I was like, you're passionate about your job. Like, you're like,
but you're putting it at risk.
And you were like, I've done everything to get this job, to get this fellowship, whatever, all this shit. And she was like, I like am so passionate, but like, you were really quick to make these decisions that were like very like perpendicular to where your head was about this job, which I get it. It was like the love versus job. Like, what's the sacrifice that you're making here? And you signed the paperwork, you did all the things. But like, I still felt like, I think I felt extra uncomfy about the her and Mars situation for so long throughout the book because I was just like, this is like, you're really trying to really.
Well, that's why the coach was so pissed.
Yeah, because I said, you're just treading a very like uncomfy line, and I was just like, and then I think he obviously fought it for so long, but it didn't feel like it matched his character because he was like such a strong guy on the ice, and he was like so solitary, and it just like that all the trauma and stuff he had dealt with. That then he brought off the ice into this relationship. And it was just like, I don't know. I feel like they weren't as, like, as a whole, they weren't as, it's not the word, not accepting, but they weren't like as like sensitive to that. Okay. And I feel like they were a little bit more like, like more gung-ho about it. And they didn't, I don't feel like they fully like understand like all the shit that he had like gone through. And like, obviously it's just like a completely different situation because he didn't want the same things that Caleb and Jake wanted. Like, he didn't want all of this. And I think it was just a very like, it just felt like a lot of pushback that then Rachel kept kind of like poking, like you said, like poking the bear. Like poking the bear, like kind of like do this. And then he was like, I want you. And like, he's like, I'm going to take this. But like, it just felt very secondary, that part of it.
Well, she ended up marrying him in the end.
No, I know.
And so I like, essentially.
He got what he wanted.
He got what he wanted. I would have loved to like done like Jake's reaction though, to like being like, no, I'm marrying him.
Yeah.
But like, I loved like, then you get the breeding kink.
Yeah. I was like
at the very end.
I was like, oh, that we just threw that in.
I loved it.
But like that was very thrown in at the very end. Like, yeah. And like, I know there had been conversations about it, but like, it felt very like,
yeah.
Would you read more of them?
Of them?
Yeah.
Yes.
You would read the rest of the books? You feel
no,
like?
I am.
Okay.
No, I am.
I just could like, I'm like, I could.
I understand why.
Yeah, because it's not, yeah, it was just not.
But I mean, it's only a novella of Next for them, and it's HEA. It's a happily
Yeah.
ever after. You get like
But
a
there's
closure.
more. Like it's not even done. She's writing more books.
But the next big book,
Is not them?
no.
Oh, okay.
It's Tess.
Okay. I didn't go into more of the in-depth about it because I didn't I was like, this is not.
No, it'll be Tess.
Okay.
And that's just male, female.
Yeah.
So, like, if you wanted to, you could.
I could go, yeah.
But, like, I also would understand why you wouldn't, to be honest.
I just thought it was just so, there was just so much that was just like, I was just like, this is it was like 800 pages. Like, it was like a lot. Like, it was.
I loved it. No, like, I loved it. And I loved that it was just very different from most Wide Shoes that I read.
Yeah. Well, and that was why I was going to ask, like, how did it feel that way because of it, like, you being so familiar with it? But obviously it's just different. You liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was different. And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes Wide Shoes can be so cookie cutter.
Yeah.
And the fact that it wasn't, I think I really enjoyed that.
The break from
The
being different.
cookie
Yeah.
kind of cutter sense of it. One thing, where did I? Oh, did you also feel that Rachel outed Jake and Caleb to Mars without
Their consent?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, because I did not care for that. I was like, we don't just out people like that.
It was very
Whether or not, like I'm with them, they're with each other. Like, okay, but that's none of Mars's business if he's not in on it yet.
I feel like that should have been a conversation that was an altogether conversation.
Yes.
100%. It was not but again, I think it comes down to her selfishness that she just doesn't, okay, she kind of just doesn't give a
But she
shit.
also knew.
Yeah.
I have a note here that I was like, I'm like, I think she knows, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, and my next note was like, she knew. She freaking knew.
Yeah. And yeah, I didn't.
But I will say, I don't fully agree with the note that I have, and like towards the end of the book, but a little bit in the beginning, Rachel was like reminding me of Indy from The Right Move. In this, I have an example: getting Mars to talk to her on the plane, and it's like, because like Ryan Shea was so quiet.
Yeah.
And he kept to himself, and he had this private life, and he didn't really expose any of it, blah, 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 all these things. His whole life was basketball, and, like, for Mars, life was hockey. Mm-hmm. And you have this, like, talkative, I need to fill the space with talk, like, I can't sit in silence, we're going to talk. It reminded me of Indy in the sense of, like, just talk to me.
I can see that. My thing, I think the big difference as far as their personalities go is I think Indy wanted that like more for him.
Yes.
And I feel like Rachel really wanted it more for herself at the beginning.
Okay, yeah, but I think from her relationship with Mars, I think she wanted to see him like.
No, I do
and it was
too.
talked about throughout the book.
Yes.
Though, like he needs to be more part of the team. Like, Jake, go talk to him. When they were all at that dinner, and he was sitting at the bar eating and drinking water and reading a book. Like,
yeah,
I think there was that sense of.
I think the difference is that they already had like that. Indy already like had not a relationship, but like she had that like predisposition because
she had met him
because of her relationship, obviously her closeness with his sister.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's where it felt a little less jarring. I think at the for Indy, where with her she had no like there was no like introduction or and like the guys weren't friends with him. He was very much to himself, where at least Ryan had the relationship with his sister that he was like. And like had that kind of connection with Indy because of his sister.
Okay.
I think that's that at the beginning. I think that's where it just felt a little bit out of nowhere for Rachel to.
Well, like she was like pulling him out of his shell, and I just like the comparison to like Indy doing that to Ryan.
Completely.
Like I felt the same. Like I was like,
no, I completely.
That reminds me of Indy.
Yes, I completely agree with that part of it. And without her, I feel like he wouldn't have ever made that jump. I just felt like there was some instances where she, like you said, like I feel like even with all of them, she overstepped some boundaries that I just was like, because she just felt entitled to. And I think that's where like she annoyed me in those facets because like you said,
you have no self-regard.
Yeah. And it's not that like, obviously you have your own issues, you have your own things that you're dealing with. But I think that was why it was so jarring for me. Cause I was like, these people, like you have these issues, but yet you're kind of doing these things like with no regard.
Yeah.
When you wouldn't be okay with people where you kept your life private. You didn't want people to know who you were.
Yeah.
But like then you were like cool with like making other people like come out of their shell. And you were like, but you weren't trying.
You weren't doing anything to reciprocate.
And I think that's where I know in Why Choose it's like a character development to get to the point of comfortable with all three of them. And I know that's like part of like a typical part of. I think I just wish that they would have explored those things sooner rather than because obviously the book was so long and I felt like so many of their issues weren't even close to being resolved until like the very end. Mm-hmm. That was my whole thing is I was like, I wanted you to kind of figure your own shit out a little bit more. There needed
to be like more faster.
Well, and just for the sake of, I feel like for their development as a whole, I feel like had they had like actual like real life shit like that they like address at the beginning versus
a meltdown.
Yes. And you knew, and like I think that was the hard part is like you knew it was coming the whole time. Like you were like the other shoe's gonna drop, but just like how fast is it gonna drop because it felt so long and so drawn out for like, and I think that's where my length was in terms of the actual length of the book.
How did you feel about all the astrology talk?
I mean, I don't
like it.
I think it was just she just kept. I think it was like you bring it up like once, but like then she started kind of using it as the like the baseline for like certain like ways that they acted, and I'm like, no, it was a choice. Like this is someone's personality. This is like it's not based on like because of their one sign or not, or like that they mesh well like in this regard. People mesh well or they don't mesh well. Like it's just I think that she kept kind of using it as a crutch, and I didn't like love that.
No, I agree. I agree with that. Like, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
Also, I want to give a shout out to Tess because she's a great friend.
Yes.
And
she put up with a lot of shit.
Oh, yeah. But I was like, good. I wrote a note here. I was like, good for Tess for calling her out on like her crap.
Her shit. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like to say it, but Rachel is a quarter of the problem. She was a quarter of the problem.
Yeah.
But also, I really loved the sudden death in the kitchen. Like, we're going to get all this shit. We're going to air it out. We're going to get it over with. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to move on.
Absolutely.
I loved it. Like
I said, I think I just wish that some of those things would have been taken care of earlier. Like, I felt like the buildup was really long. And I get it. And that's why I said I think it could have been 2 books. Because I just felt like there was a lot that really, like...
Yeah.
Because you got the Jake and her connection immediately, and then you were thrown into this like hot ass mess of like their friendships and like we're doing this, we got his thing, but like they already had an established relationship, and then Jake and Caleb had an established relationship. It just wasn't the established relationship that you saw.
Yeah.
But I think there was like all of these like moving parts that I feel like she could have tied up a little bit quicker.
Okay.
In the like, or like I said, made it 2 books where you're, there's because like, and I have not read Mandy Muse's books, but I feel like from what you've told me, and obviously I'm planning on reading next month, but I feel like from what you told me, it almost feels like they kind of like had their own journeys in each book. Like you kind of explored like the journey of each part. Like, and I felt like that could have been the facet that she took.
Does the MM bother you?
No,
Okay.
it doesn't. It doesn't bother me. I
will say in Cursed Beast, like, it's the why choose of it all isn't heavy.
Yeah.
But you'll get there.
Yeah. I don't.
If you continue the series.
Yeah. I don't mind the as much. I don't, because it's like, it's just kind of,
whatever.
You knew going into this that that's what you were I knew.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like I was like, oh my God, that's like, I'm totally like shocked. I wasn't shocked.
No.
Obviously, you kind of know that that's like.
The tentacle vibrator, though, must Google. I want to know. What does it look like? I did not Google yet. I
have not Googled literally anything. But, and you also just finished it not too long ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that part doesn't bother me. I think that if it, like, obviously if it does bother you, it's not the book for you, because there's it's heavy on that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
But I think you knew going into it that was like going to be a very central part of the book, because I know again, in the book that, in the other Why Choose I read, obviously there's only one in this one, there was not
Okay.
It was like, there was like, I mean, not that I remember. Obviously, I read it in December of 2022, so it's like been a hot minute since I've read it. But I do not recall any in that book, because the three guys were roommates and on a podcast together, but they were all separate.
Got it.
And had separate relationships with each other. And like two of the guys had done this previously, like one girl, two guys, but never with each other. I don't think it was any with each other. But it wasn't jarring for me, like, as far as this goes, because I knew it was going to happen. But like, obviously, like, if you didn't know.
I just wanted to make sure before like we dove in.
No, because, and I think that that's one of the things is that you kind of, I don't know if that's pretty, like, is it pretty standard, like, to have at least have one relationship in a Y2s? No. Okay. All right. Yeah.
But I had this, sorry, I had one more thing.
You're good.
I had like wrote here, it's on this side, I think. I was like, once she like kind of established each of her relationships with each of them. Yeah. I was like, Jake is her light, Caleb is her dark, Mars is her peace. Yes. And then literally the quote in the book was my quote. It said, Jake is my joy, Caleb is my comfort, Amari is my rest. I want them all. I need them all. That was my quote. I'm bummed that you didn't like this book, but like I understand what bothered you and like all the things that we have talked about on this episode, and I get it. But I will say, like, all of them like champing around her when she needed them most, and like needed them to really reel it in for her and like make it known and be serious about it. It was just, I really loved that.
No, I think that
and helping her to like defeat her demons, whether she had the confidence to defeat them on her own, meaning like carrying her name with pride. Yeah. And them all changing their names, which I think was great.
It was great. No, I completely agree. And I think honestly it comes down to, I'm just not a Why Choose girl. And will I still read the hat trick because I know it's very...
I've only been telling you to read it for a while now.
It's literally still on my case. Like, I have it downloaded. No, I definitely will read it because I know it is significantly probably different than this book beyond. Would you say?
Yes.
And I mean, it is hockey still. Like, I get that, but like, it's different.
It's different, and it's really
I know you really champion that book. So
I do.
I definitely will. Like I said, I think my rating is bars, just different because I don't.
I'm shocked that you give it 3 for the feelings that you have about it. I'm shocked it's not like.
I don't really rate a lot of things lower than 3, honestly.
I think 3, if for your feelings based on it, I feel like I'm shocked that you said 3 because like I don't think I knew what you had rated it until today. Yeah. But like, just like you have like, I have this unpopular opinion about it. I thought it was going to be a lot lower.
Well, I just don't. Like, there's a good 3 and there's like a bad 3, and I would say that this was like a bad 3 in regards to, because like I know people like, oh, 3 stars is like whatever, but like for me, like you can either get like a 3 star that's closer to a 2. 0.75, or you can get a 3-star that's closer to like a 3.25, like where it's
Okay.
I feel like 3 is like my happy medium for like I just feel bad like rating lower than 3 unless the
You're
book
like,
is, actually going
I would
to, like,
recommend it, but like I'm gonna give you all of my thoughts and opinions about it beforehand.
yeah, I mean, especially if it's like you're a wide choose person. I'm just not a wide choose person. So like if like and coming, that's why I wanted to read it. I wanted to hear from your perspective because I feel like most of the people.
Has my perspective changed your mind about things, or
I mean, not really, because just
does it make you possibly a little bit more open to explore?
Well, like I said, I would
With at least with because you are going to read Curse Beast, you might pick up Hat Trick.
But you telling me that it's not in a typical, like it's not a typical why choose makes me more open to reading the books that you've recommended because you enjoyed them more. I feel like, especially obviously Curse Beast, like those are 5
it's
to
a
5-star.
It's a personality trait at this point.
Yeah, it's like a 6-star read for you. Like the series 6-star read. So like for me, like that makes me more open to doing that because I know you really enjoyed that. And I mean, not that a 4-star is bad. A 4-star is still a good rating. So like it's not like so. I guess for me is like knowing that you rated it 4 stars and like yes I rated it 3 but like it was like not a good 3 for me. Makes me more open to reading the ones that you actually
I would never give you like a why choose that's dark because you don't do the dark.
I don't do dark in a regular setting.
No, so I would never like give you like Den of Vipers or like Unstoppable.
I think that reading like Pucking Around is like kind of like the book talk, like you have to like read it just to like get it out of your system, but like it's not a book I would like normally have like picked up. And I like wouldn't like I definitely not go like recommending it to people. I mean like, oh my god, it was amazing. Like I just wouldn't like I just unless that was like really like I think it's just such a long book.
It is very long.
Which I think it feels every page long. Like I think that's the difference is like some books that are long. But like Magnolia Park is 600 pages.
Okay, I will agree with you on length there because I mean I've read The Ritual and The Sinner and they're thick books.
But like I feel like some books feel every page thick.
But like this I don't like I read that on my Kindle. I didn't read that. And same thing with Pucking Around. Like I read it on my Kindle.
But
I didn't feel every like with The Sinner and Ritual, like those are long books. I didn't feel
no because like I feel
it
like
wasn't. I didn't feel as daunting.
I use my gauge is like I can.
I think that's one of the reasons why Pucking Around for me is a 4 is because maybe it was
like I could do more.
It was just like daunting for like it just was like we're still doing this.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
It wasn't enough to like deter me from stopping and or giving it a lower than a 4.
Like, and it goes totally different. But like Magnolia Parks is like 600. It's like very long books.
Yeah,
and that's daunting for people because they look like very thick. But like, give me more. Like I could take more. But like this book, I was like,
give me less.
Oh my god, we're still going. We're only at like 30%. All right, where's like 50%? And like the 50 because like normally I would say
50%, and then you start to see a churn.
Yes,
and I think at like 70 you saw a churn.
But and I think that's where the difference is that at 50% for most books, and like fight me on that if you will, like listening, whatever. The first 50% feels significantly longer than the second 50%. This book, I did not feel that turn, like you said, to like 70%. And I was like, oh my god, okay, like we're making
that
progress.
Last like couple like I think it was like I don't know the exact, but it was like the last maybe quarter of the book. Like it just like picked up differently, and I was like, ooh, we're getting into it now. Like
yeah. And I think that that's where it's different. Is there's so many books that I feel like you're getting through it and like it doesn't feel as long because like even Iron Flame that book felt every page as long as it was, and that was tough to get through. And it's what everybody says about reading Iron Flame is that book felt every page as long because the word count was significantly higher than most books. And I think that's the difference. I don't know the word count with this one, but like regardless, like I just know it was like a thing that was very heavily debated and why Iron Flame flame felt so long, but
Yeah.
like wasn't that long, but like felt very long. But this one I just felt and it took me a long time to get through because there's just a lot happening all the time.
Goodreads kept putting it into like, I finished.
You're like, please stop.
I was like, I have not finished
You're
this
like,
yet.
I have not
Thank
finished.
you.
No, but I mean, Goodreads keeps putting Throne of Glass as finished because it literally, because I'm reading it on the 8-book.
Oh, yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So then every time I like, and then it's like, oh, it's done. I'm like, no, I'm not done.
Actually,
please put it back.
stop.
And so literally, I think my Kindle app says I've read like 29 books. I haven't read 29 books. It's because it keeps ending the other one. So I'm like, this
That's true.
is nothing.
You're like, this is why we keep track separately.
Correct. Because it's not true.
Well, yeah, so those were our thoughts about pucking around.
Next month, did we talk about it at the beginning of this episode? No.
No, we talked about
at the end of the last
episode.
So we did not choose a specific book for Tropes and Tantrums for the buddy read for the month of February.
Honestly, we forgot.
And January was so freaking long. But what we decided to do is for our book club, we're reading A Love Letter to Whiskey. And both very excited to read it.
Yes.
Thrilled. So we are going to do an episode separate about that for March. So we welcome you to read it with the book club. You will feel like you're a part of the book club, but you will not be in the book club, technically. France will
We'll
not
still
allow
talk
us.
about it.
France will not let us have anyone else, even though France should really not have any barring
She really
of anything.
should not have any
because
say,
she
but-
literally just keeps picking really shitty books. We love her, but shitty books choices.
Yes.
Not on her fault. She doesn't know. She just is picking books. We're all going in blind. So, thanks so much for listening today, guys.
And watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
Follow us on Instagram at Tropes and Tantrums. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen
to podcasts. Thank you guys. Happy reading. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Tropes and Tantrums. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram. And don't forget, happy reading.